This morning I met with an MHA. As yesterday, as you know, in the House of Assembly, I encouraged people to come forward if there was any complaint that they may want to come forward with, or if there are any issues with any caucus member or any cabinet member or any member of this House of Assembly. So I encourage people to come forward, as I always have. So this morning I met with an MHA, and there's been an official complaint that's been lodged against a member, and so we'll be take this complaint very seriously. I've made a commitment to the member that we would explore now what next steps that we have available to us, and I would get back to the MHA to have a chat about and a discussion about how this would all unfold. I will say that the complaint, I've been given permission to say that with the consent of the complainant, that this is not something that's sexual in nature. This is not a physical assault or physical in nature. This is really about behavior and conduct, but yet I do not want to dismiss the seriousness of any of those complaints, and we will be doing a thorough review of this, and we'll do this, quickly, and with the complainant certainly involved at every step.
Is this was this person who complained an MHA in your caucus or in the opposition?
This MHA was in our caucus, and it's the only one. It's the only complaint that I've received, and we dealt with the issues as they came up yesterday. We took them very seriously, and we wanted to take immediate action. I called a caucus meeting this morning. I just left the caucus meeting just a few minutes ago and explained to them and just told them, what I would be discussing today with you folks in media.
Was the subject of the complaint also in your caucus?
Pardon me?
Is the subject of the complaint that...
at this point right now, the decision that we've made and what I've been asked to do is just understanding the sensitivities around privacy and those issues within the House of Assembly, is that all with the consent of the complainant was that we would not, just to let people know that this is not sexual in nature and this is not a physical assault in nature. That's the discussion today. These are very early discussions that we have, but we will do a very thorough, swift review of this.
But I'm just wondering, like the subject of the complaint, the complainee, the complainers and the Liberal, the subject of the complaint is also a Liberal?
Yes.
Okay, are they a cabinet minister?
I think right now this is probably the level of detail that we would not want to get into right now. There's a lot of work that we will have to do, but I want to get at this as quickly as possible, and we'll be certainly keeping the person that lodged the complaint, we'll be keeping them involved in every step of the way.
What is the next step in order to investigate this?
Well, as you know, we're kind of in between policy right now. We've taken a position that's first of all, bringing the complaint forward is something that I've encouraged, and I really commend the individual for doing this today. That's important for me. We want to make sure that our workplaces are safe. And this step today, I commend the person for coming forward with this. So the next step will be to look at a number of options, and then we will sit with the complainant and just she or the person will explore, what the next steps will be.
And why not take action right away if there's an issue around the conduct of someone within your caucus? Why not take action to remove them from their position?
We can do a number of things, and we have not discounted, and we have not said that any action like this, but at this particular point, I just want to be very proactive in getting this out there as information would come my way. I've always said that we deal with it swiftly, we deal with it proactively, and that's exactly what we're doing today. I wanted to meet with my caucus first. I think that was fair and deserving. I've done that, and I've actually fully disclosed to them what actions I would be taking in terms of setting the next steps, and we'll keep them informed along the way as well.
And Mr. Kirby sent an email to caucus members. What do you make of his message that anyone who's been speaking to Paul Davis needs to show themselves?
Well, I received that email. It certainly wasn't something that I asked anyone to do. It's not something that I reached out to Minister Kirby and asked to do. I received this email like everyone else. So at this point, I think there's a level of frustration that you might expect. This is really uncharted waters for this government. So this has been a very close-knit group of people, and we've been through a lot of challenging times. And so this is really uncharted waters for us, and we'll be making sure that the appropriate measures are taken. I think when I look at the email and as I read it, it really was a level of frustration, and because I think most people would know that as they work with me that I make myself very accessible to people, and I think that's what that's what I read from that. But it doesn't really change my approach to anything that I will do. It's making sure that I'm accessible, making sure that I encourage people to come forward on any issues, be harassment or behavior or conduct. My door's open, and I encourage people to step forward.
Will there be any repercussions for Mr. Kirby? Because some people have alleged that this was a form of intimidation. Well,
we've got to look at all of this. I have not had a real good chat with Minister Kirby about this issue yet. As I said, this morning when the complaint was lodged, I want to deal with this as well. Obviously we had some other things that we had to deal with, but we've got staff now fully engaged and looking at the options that we have available to us. But all of this, we'll obviously be taking, we'll take the necessary steps in due course.
In terms of the complaint, was it like a one-off or a pattern of behavior over a long period of time?
I think right now the level of detail and those sorts of things, I think is best, that I make sure that I sit with the person that lodged the complaint in this particular case, and we can work our way through this. And there's a lot of details that we need to discuss. And as I said, this is really uncharted waters for us right now. But we make sure that we got the necessary people and offer assistance where we can if required. But I just want to reiterate that this was about conduct, about behavior, not anything that's sexual or physical by any measure.
Mr. Davis made reference yesterday to a report that he had seen. Have you seen or heard of any such reports?
No, I haven't, and that is something that I've not seen. It's not something that's been shared with me at all. And so that is, my focus today is dealing with the complaint that came in this morning.
Okay, and one quick clarification in terms of, you mentioned your in-between policies. So there was some discussion on whether or not the policy being brought in would apply to government members. Can you be clear on where we are?
Well, the letter that I wrote to the leader of the opposition, Davis, there a few weeks ago, where I would like to be is to actually be very, to get the workplace harassment-free policy in place within our own MHAs, within the MHAs, now as quickly as possible. So any actions that we review, or the next steps that we review, we would like for this to kind of fit in this new model. But these are some of the challenges that we're dealing with, and the officials are working their way through this right now. But this will not take a long time. We'll get the necessary processes and what the next steps would look like. We'll get them established very quickly.
Are you aware of?
My preference would be to be able to use what would come in effect in June of this year. But I just want to make sure that no matter which set we use, we get an actual thorough review of the issues that's been raised. That's where I want to be, first and foremost. But I've had to do so working with the person that lodged the complaint, wherever they're most comfortable. We had to get people comfortable in coming forward with information, and that's important for me. So we'll allow this process to unfold. But my preference would be, of course, is to look at where we're going to be in June and work within those policies if possible.
Are you aware of any other complaints, either informal or formal, aside from the one MHA that
this was the only complaint that I've received. And I said this yesterday, and like I said, I dealt with it this morning as the complaint came to me, as was lodged this morning, and that's all that I know. There's nothing else to disclose, and so as I'm telling you, as I'm telling the people of the province. And I just told my caucus, you know what I know.
Okay. So will all of this be released publicly once the review is done?
Well, let me get at this, and I've got to make sure that the person that lodged the complaint is comfortable. I just want to make sure they get it proactively today and let the people of the province know, what was fully disclosed, what was disclosed to me this morning.